Howdy, I'm Kurt Williams, and today I'm talking to Tom Pescatore, a real-life comic creator. Tom, you want to say hi?
Hello.
And hopefully Loco Gonzalez is going to be joining us. He might be having some issues with his computer. He's the artist on Junction Jones and the Corduroy Conspiracy, which you wrote.
Yeah, I usually don't go anywhere without him, so.
Nowhere without Loco Gonzalez. Well, they are publishing this comic, Junction Jones, and it's coming out under Scout Comics. The first 3 issues are out now, right? And the next 3 are coming. Do you want to give a quick synopsis of what that comic's all about?
Yeah, I usually do it terribly. And then I realized that I wrote the log lines for it, so I could just read
That works.
the log line for it. So, all right, here we go. In the derelict slums of the multi-dimensional town of Junction, Mr. Nibs and Junction Jones scour the dangerous alleyways in search of illicit organic material to sell off to the local black market chop shops and transmutation garages, until an anonymous tip leads them to the remains of a murdered Earth hobo. The evidence they uncover on the body points to a vast government conspiracy, a conspiracy of which they're now inexplicably at the center. Their first instinct, run and hide, but a suspicious maintenance team that just so happens to arrive at the same time looking for the same body may hamper that. In the ensuing standoff, Jones decides the best option might be a joke. Will it fall flat or land? And then Mr. Nibs is a cat with an alien brain.
Right, he's an alien with a cat body, right?
Yeah, he's an alien.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So I've read all 6 issues that you sent me, and it's dense. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff. Lots of great world building in there. Tell me about the world building process for writing this comic, because it's a very unique world, and you're working with this guy who lives in a totally different country than you.
We were instantly, it was like a brain meld with him, and I always say I internet stalked him, so I saw his art and I had no idea of really what I wanted things to look like, and I just felt like looking at his cyberpunk and some of his funnier art, I was I feel like I wouldn't have a lot to explain with him, so our working relationship, I kind of treat him like he's the narrator in a prose novel, or he's the director. So I'll give him a sense of the world through the feeling of it, how it feels, the shadows, kind of things like that. And then I'll just let him do build the interior of the world. And I took out so much narrative. There's obviously no narration. So we just wanted the visual world to kind of tell that story. And part of me was I don't want the narrative. I want the visual narrative to be comic books, but I don't want the narrative to be a comic book narrative at all. I wanted to try something different with the narration. So there's no interior monologues. The characters don't really tell you what's happening. A lot of the times, you're kind of just, the world is you're just peeking into their world at this current moment.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Showing instead of telling is always better.
Yeah, and then it's the danger of how much how much can you not show was more of what I was concerned with. How much, where is the point where it becomes incomprehensible? And I feel parts of it are incomprehensible, but one of the goals was to see if I could use the tropes of a noir or a cyberpunk and allow that to move the narrative without an clear understanding of how the world works, or why this thing would be a crime, or what the dangers are involved in what they're doing.
Yeah, people familiar with the genre can probably fill in those gaps anyway.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's definitely very, very noir and very cyberpunk. You nailed the mood for sure. Walk me through the whole process of I assume this was your idea, and then you found the artist, and then you pitched to publishers, and then eventually everything between the day you had this cool idea and the day it hit stands.
Yeah. So originally, I wanted to write it as a pulp novella in a 1930s kind of Dashiell Hammett style, and it was all just going to be one really long joke where at the end you realize that a cat was narrating the entire thing, because he's the badass, and his partner Junction Jones is kind of he's kind of like a tank. He does, he's not the most introspective or aggressive character. The cat's kind of the gruff detective. So he's going to be obsessed with Earth story, detective stories on Earth. So even though he was trapped in a cat's body, he still wanted to live out the identity of being like a 1930s pulp detective. So I had that, and I couldn't move it along. Like, I wrote like a chapter and I would just delete it, or throw it in like the recycling bin on my computer or something. And then a friend of mine was like, why don't you do it as a comic book? Because I was doing like indie publishing superhero comics. So then I was like, if I could find the artist, because I feel like it needs to seem like one person did it. If it seems like I just paid somebody to do it, I don't think it would come off as well as I want. So
not as cohesive.
Yeah, so I would just like go just look at art pages like all the time. Then I saw his, and there's like he has like an image of like Mickey Mouse sneaking up on a child in bed. And like for some reason that one just stuck out to me, and I couldn't get it like out of my head. So I kept him in mind, and I just started, like, the story just started coming. So then I was like, I really hope when I contact him, he's not doing something like so then I contacted him, and he was into it. So as I started getting pages back, I started rewriting the story. So like each page he gave me, I rewrote it, and then I lettered it. So I just I started rewriting the dialogue. I was like, I can take all this out. Like, I don't need to say this conversation doesn't need to be had, because he did like some body language or something, in it. Once we completed 3 issues, I was like, I think we were going to self-publish it, do like a Kickstarter or whatever. But once like 3 issues were done, I was like, I feel like we could probably submit this to just like a round of submissions to comic book companies. And I think Scout got back to us like a day after I sent it to them. And then we had like a couple others, and then we were considering them all, and I felt like Scout had the biggest reach of the companies that reached out to us. So then we went with Scout, and they kind of just let us do whatever we wanted. Like, I was sending them the backups, so like, is this okay? Is this okay if we take like every square inch of this comic? And they were pretty cool with everything. The editor, Joshua, was like really cool. He was just felt like, like what they say images, you put the team together and they let you do like whatever you want, really.
Did they limit your page numbers at all? They just said go for it.
Yeah. Outside of that, they wanted single issues. That was like their only stipulation, really.
Because you would have rather done a trade paperback version.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not too bad. If they're gonna limit you, that's not a bad limitation, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. So then you hand over the artwork, like the finished comic, to the publisher, and then are you out of the process? Do they just like do their own marketing and distribution?
So we had help a little bit for the first issue with a what do you call it? Like a comic book PR firm to do the first issue. But after that, it's like, you have your own social media or whatever, but it's basically up to you to get the word out. So. And
then local comic stores will check like solicitations, and they'll decide if they want to order it. You don't get to
I did like a signing at a couple of comic stores in Philly and in Maryland.
What are those like?
Weird. Yeah, very weird. Actually, a really weird experience was I wrote a novella like several years ago, called The Boxcar Bob, and some guy that came to the signing had bought it by accident for his kids because he was buying the Boxcar Children, and he read it, and then he saw the poster for my signing, so like he came and was like, are you the same person who wrote the Boxcar Bob? I thought it was like a friend who set it up, like, that's awesome. Trying to figure out who would set me up. That was pretty cool, and it's just like, I feel like, you never know like what the comic community is going to be around you. Like the couple signings were really cool. People coming out willing to like try out a new comic and stuff.
What was your print run like?
I think the first one was like 3,000 maybe, but then of course, the drop's going to be like 50% or whatever for 2. So I think we're around like 1,500 or something, 1,200.
So you've still got issues going out to shops.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in my LCS, which surprises me because we get Scout Comics a lot. So I would have figured we'd see it. If people aren't seeing it in their store, you can buy it online, right? You can just order it.
It's on the Scout website. There's like a whole page for it.
I'll make sure the link for that is in this video so that if anyone wants to pick it up.
Let's hope.
Yeah. It's great. Go buy it. Tell me about the color choice in the series, because most of it is black and white.
Yeah.
And then some parts have color, like when it's raining or there was a flashback, right? What's the thinking behind that?
So that was like that was twofold. We felt like it would be like a funny reveal, like way late in the series, if you were like, oh, this world actually is just devoid of colors. It's like an actual grayscale world that they're living in, you know. So you have like the flash to Earth, and you see that Earth is like kind of dreary, but colored. And then I don't think we show it until like the last issue, but there's like gigantic piping, like fiber optic cables that run along the world, and that's like the rain is like the condensation from like their usage that like falls onto like the industrial section and causes like slight elements of color to appear with like the neon lights.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a sick idea.
So we wanted to do it, you know, like in a way where it's not explicit, and that was like that's another piece of that like showing, not telling, is like I feel like in some other comics you might get like, the rain from the fiber optic cables is causing there to be color again or something, you know, in like a narration box or something.
Yeah, one of those text boxes. I'm glad that you didn't do the like cliche detective gruff like I woke up and it was dark, you know, that kind of it's been overdone. We didn't need it. There was a lot of showing going on, so we just don't really need that in this story. So that was a good choice.
Yeah, it was tempting to do like a funny narration, but I held off. Yeah.
Is this your first published comic?
By a company, yes. I self-published like a teenage superhero comic, and then I started that in like 2013, I think.
What was that called?
It's called the All New Union.
All New Union?
Yeah, it was a joke on all new Marvel stuff at the time, but now I feel like it's like so old that it like doesn't even make any sense.
Is it one of those things where you're like, I don't want anybody to see this because it's my previous work and I'm
I think it's really good. Yeah, the first issue's done with a Brazilian artist named Danger Jazz, and then the issue 2 and beyond is with an Italian artist named Chiara Jacobelli, and I just wanted to do something different than superheroes for that, like have like non-male artists illustrate it. So we have a non-binary artist and a female artist, and you know, it's like it's more I wouldn't say it's more drama based, but it's like a mix of like Kirby crazy ideas with like more down to earth kind of stuff with like homemade costumes, things like that. And it's like reversed. The all new was because I reversed it. Like it's a story about the teenage characters impacting the older characters who failed previous to the beginning of the series. So it's like a flip on the normal mentor protege kind of comic book relationship.
Right. Yeah. Was that 2013 when they did the like legacy stuff?
Yeah.
Kamala Khan is the new Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And Miles Morales is the new Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think 2013 was one of the last times I felt really proud of Marvel.
Yeah. And then it was like, what happened?
Yeah, it's just been boring for like a decade. Well, you mentioned Jack Kirby. Tell me about your other influences. Are you like, have you always wanted to be a writer? Are you a writer-focused guy?
So I did originally want to draw comics. So I wanted to be an artist, but I failed. I wouldn't say I failed at it. I had to decide. So I have a degree in a graduate degree in history. So I had to decide time-wise, like what I was going to focus on. Was it going to be art, or was it going to be like history writing? And at the time, I think I didn't connect with underground comics, like the 60s. I connected more with like the literature, which I felt was more transgressive than the like. I love like the art of Crumb and like Spain Rodriguez and stuff, but I just felt like it wasn't as transgressive as the novels that I was reading. So I didn't have anywhere to go with comics because it was like the late 90s, early 2000s, you know? And it's like, I just wasn't really inspired by what was happening at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to focus on history. I feel like put my energy in that. I kept writing. I did poetry for like maybe 10 years, 15 years, like publishing in journals and a few collections and things like that. And then I guess I circled back around to comics. I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely like more in terms of like art, like European, you know, like Mobius, and I really like Chantal Montalier. I think that's how you say her name. She has a recent book called Social Fiction. That's like her 1970s dystopian, like feminist dystopian stuff. American artists, I really like Tim Lane. He did like The Lonesome Go with Fantagraphics. But in terms of like storytelling and stuff, much more impacted by like novels and poetry and film.
Well, that makes sense. There's a lot of film influence.
Yeah, there's
on
some silent film stuff. I really tried to go hard on like the silent film.
It translates, absolutely. Are you a writer by trade? Is this your full-time job? Or?
No, I work in archiving.
Also cool.
So,
you're in DC, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that comes out of the background material in Junction Jones. You know, I really tried to like make it look real.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that all the backup, not the backup stuff, but the stuff in the back of the issues, all the archival stuff, it looks really authentic. It's you've got like some really good textures on there. The typewriter fonts look weathered. Yeah, that stuff is really fun. It's got that Watchmen vibe to it.
Yeah.
Bonus materials. There was something in the first. Was it just the first 2 or 3 issues? The like almost looked like it was a blog.
Yeah, the blog. Yeah, my friend who I work with other comics, Tom, he designed it, and I just like added the text to it.
Explain that to me. What is? It's like alien stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I wanted to mix like so I had the idea for like this weird like like the world of Junction is like a post like apocalypse, but it's like based on like if we went from like 1920 directly to the post apocalypse. So it's like freight train, hobo, like Depression era type like industrial apocalypse. I thought it'd be funny if like that world, like the traveling of like hobos and freight trains, like interdimensional freight trains was like our like what we thought was UFOs is like this this weird world interacting with ours. So like people randomly falling through the gaps in Junction, or people falling like missing people from Earth would just fall into Junction like through like a crack in the reality. So like every type of supernatural occurrence was actually like Earth interacting with the Junction world.
Interdimensional hobos.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense now. I'll be honest, I read the first like page and I was like, my brain hurt from like looking at the green words on the black text. I was like, I don't know.
That's on purpose too. I did it till my brain hurt like on the screen. I was like, okay, this color is the most offensive.
This is the one that most looks like some crackpot forum.
Yeah.
Dark web.
And then I just did some fun spoofs of like Time Cube and Alex Jones and things like that.
Yeah, those were cool too. You've got those back covers, I assume, of all the issues are like advertisements, in-world advertisements. Those are really cool. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of heart and thought that went into these comics. It's really nice to see it so thoroughly thought through.
Yeah, that's not like at first like the first couple pages like Luciano Loco is like working on it. When you start working with someone, it's like so strange. And now like you're texting like every day, and it's been like 5 years. So I feel like as the book went on, like it became more seamless about like what he was doing or what I was doing. I think he became more of like a graphomaniac. I feel like as the series went on into like, especially like the 5th issue when they like assault the Junction facility or whatever, like it gets really crazy.
Yeah, that I think when we got to issue 4, I noticed like a change in how accessible it was. And then issue 5, I was like, wow, we've really reached a peak of this. This is great. Yeah, there's that, what is that like cool old-timey truck that doesn't have wheels, it's just hovering. Is that in issue 5, I think? That was sick. I love that. That whole scene where he drives the tank through the wall, right?
Yeah, into the like the tourists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dialogue in that scene is great too.
So yeah, that's like I felt like every issue I kind of wanted to do like a build up to something, and then kind of seeing if we could like sometimes subvert the expectation, and then eventually we're just gonna go full, like this is gonna be like a full firefight. Yeah, and I think like another thing about like for film wise, like and in terms of the collection, like the first issue I is called like a prelude, and that's kind of like I sometimes when I'm watching a film, like the title card comes in at like 40 minutes in, and you're like, this is gonna be a good movie. So like if I could do the whole first issue, like normally a comic will have like 4 pages, 2 pages, that's like the prelude, and I'm like, what if I did like 24 pages of prelude? Like the second issue is chapter 1.
I know that some comics lately have been waiting until like the final.
Yeah, I really like that too.
Share. Yeah, like in Immortal Hulk, they did that, and it would be like, this is the story you just read, and the title makes it all come together.
Yeah, I think like Grant Morrison did that like effectively. I can't remember when. It might have been Seven Soldiers of Victory or something. I don't know, maybe.
Okay, so for anybody who wants to, for the people out there who have comic ideas in their brains and they don't know how to get them on shelves, was this a financial investment? Did you find any kind of return on it? that chuckle means no.
Yeah, definitely more a labor of love, I guess. Yeah, I think like even like, I mean, unless your Kickstarter like even blows up, like the goal is to like really hope to just cover the costs. But I feel like, once you get in and people have read your stuff, the next time you might have a better shot at and I'm kind of lucky because I do, like I said, I have a regular job that affords like a good amount of time for me to do other things. It is tough, especially if you're only writing it. Luckily, I was able to do the lettering and like the book construction. But I know like a bunch of people that are like, they have to get someone to do lettering. They only have a penciler, so they need an inker and a colorist. Like Luciano did the whole thing, so like he was doing the colors and everything. So it made it a little easier. It's just me and him.
And is Luciano like a co-owner? Does he own any rights, or are you like contracting him?
It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like basically we're 50-50, but he said he won't take any money until we make any. So he refused to so until we break even. I mean, I paid him for the art, of course.
So you fronted a bunch of money, and now
I wouldn't let him work. I don't think I could like, especially like how crazy he would be like message me at like 4 a.m. about like a single picture of like Mr. Nib's face. He's like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like,
Tell me about the pitch process. You said you pitched to a few places. Do you put together a package, or do you just send them a whole first issue?
Yes, I looked online for like people's opinions, or like sample ones. Jim Zub, I think his name is. He has a pretty good blog about like pitching. So I kind of like cobbled together a bunch of ideas. Like a lot of them say you need like a log line and then a brief synopsis. The log line is like super hard, I feel like, because you got to distill it in like a single sentence of what the whole thing's about. And then a description of the series. And then a lot of times they'll want like the first issue, or some of them only want it 5 pages, which is, I feel like, way tougher. Like, how do you even know what's happening with like 5 pages? Some of them had like a submission manager. Some of them had just an email address. So you never know. I kind of stuck to the ones that allow digital submissions, because there's a lot of places that want you to like print out the pages and send in a package. Yeah, description, synopsis. Some of them want a breakdown of each issue, and others like they want like what is your comic, like what is a like comic to yours, like what's a similar comic to yours, or what is your marketing strategy, which is, I feel like, maybe the toughest if you don't have like a built-in audience already. Yeah, which I don't. So
if you just spent all this money making the comic, you can't spend money on advertising the comic, right? Unless you want to wait 2 years to save money, and then your comic is 2 years old and you want to make something better anyway.
I feel like that's actually for me, because I like doing poetry or writing a novel, is like from creation to printing with a comic is like so strange, because it finally comes out and we've been done, for so long. It's like so old to us. When it comes out, it's like a really weird thing to like see it finally in print, and you're like, this is like so old to me. I kind of don't even remember. Like, so I'm like reading it, not remembering even some of the things that happened in it,
Yeah, when issue 1 of Junction Jones came out, you said you started this like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. So we had been done probably for like 6 months or a year.
With the whole series?
With the whole series, yeah.
Wow.
So for the first issue was done like so long ago that it was like, oh yeah, I remember this. Except that Luciano had a mini freak out the night before our final proof was due, and redrew like almost every page, like parts of almost every page. He's like, I'm really sorry about this, but I made edits. And I was like, oh, how many of the pages? He was like, I uploaded them to the drive, and it was all 24 pages where we uploaded.
Well, were they better?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I didn't think they needed to be improved on, but I would say they were better, yeah.
You said you have another series coming up, right?
Yeah, we've been working on a sequel that I made up like a really, really long title for, because The title also is kind of a joke because I just wanted it to be really long, and this one was even longer. And then Luciano changed the name of it in the drive because he couldn't handle how long the title. But yeah, it's like a because one of the ideas was to do it like a Dick Tracy almost, or like I can't remember the Dashiell Hammett characters that are like it's like a husband and wife, but one of those like serialized detective stories, but to like twist it so that it becomes more incomprehensible as it goes on. So it's like each thing seems like it's its own mystery, but it's actually tied into like the greater overall story arc.
That's great storytelling. So we have 6 issues of Junction Jones and the Corduroy Conspiracy, and then we'll have probably 6 more issues of super duper long title. Sequel.
Yeah, and for that I'm for the backups I want to do like a comic book from each era starting in 1940 that is impacted by the character Valentine Green from the first one. So he's kind of like, I don't know if you know if you like the Hat Man. It's like people that take like too much Benadryl have like sleep paralysis and they see like a character with like a shrouded character with like a hat. So I kind of saw him as like a Slender Man type. So like when he falls to Earth, he becomes like part of like the subconscious of humans as he's like split apart, from the train crash. So like each era of like EC Comics in the in the 40s or the 50s would be like he would be like in it all the time as like one of the horror characters. So and then like throughout that he would like impact comic books, like every era of comic books.
That's cool. That's the kind of history in comics that I like to read.
Yeah.
Are you an aspiring professional comic book writer who just does this all the time?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I don't know if I'd be able to go away from like what I do normally.
Well, you're doing pretty well for it being like a side gig.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Well, Tom Pescatore, thank you so much for joining us today. If anybody's interested in Junction Jones, I've got the link below. You can go and buy those issues for yourself, or you could order them from your shop. Though I know that most shops order things, like a month at least in advance. So they might only be able to order, issue 6 by the time the order actually gets in, if they do it through a shop. I'd probably just go online. Do you know if there's going to be a trade paperback that they can buy later?
I think that's depending on sales.
Depending on sales.
Yeah.
So buy them so that you can buy it even later in a trade paperback. It's too bad we couldn't talk to Luciano today. I was really excited to see his input on like specific panels and stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe if this video goes well, we could do another interview.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking forward to reading the sequel series that's coming out. I recommend the series. Go buy it for yourself. And I'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Yep. All right.
All right. Thanks.
See
you
ya.
later.